Hi.
You know how people say, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Yeah, I wish I listened to that. But I was young, stupid, and thought love was enough. Turns out, love means nothing when the other person has no respect for you. I met Sarah on her 21st birthday at a club. She was celebrating with her friends, and I was out with my buddies. She was gorgeous. Bright blue eyes, this infectious laugh, and the kind of confidence that made people gravitate toward her. I wasn't even planning on talking to her, but she made the first move. Said she liked my shirt, asked if I wanted to buy her a drink. That should have been a red flag, huh? One drink turned into three turned into her dancing on me all night, and by the end of it, we were making out in the parking lot like teenagers. I got her number, and we started dating almost immediately. It was a whirlwind romance. Fast, passionate, and felt like something out of a movie. A year later, we got married. It wasn't a big wedding, just close friends and family. I remember standing at the altar, looking at her, thinking, man, I really hit the jackpot. She wasn't just beautiful, she was supportive, encouraging. She believed in me when I decided to start my own accounting firm. She worked a part-time job while I built my business, always telling me she knew I'd be successful. I thought she was my partner, my best friend. Then we had Angel, our daughter. My whole world shifted. If I thought I loved Sarah before, it was nothing compared to what I felt watching her hold our baby girl for the first time. I worked even harder, built a good life for us, made sure we had a nice house, financial security. I wanted Sarah to have everything. For 10 years, things were good. We had the usual ups and downs, but I never thought we were in trouble. Sarah was a great mom, and even though she sometimes complained that she missed her freedom, she never seemed unhappy. Then, when Angel turned 10, Sarah decided to go back to work. She got a job as a personal assistant for some hotshot lawyer named William Aston. He was older, successful, and from the way Sarah talked about him, practically a saint. I didn't think much of it at first. But then the late nights started. Twice a week at first. Then 3 times. Then whenever something came up at the office. She always had an excuse. I didn't question it at first. I trusted my wife. Why wouldn't I? But then I started noticing little things. The way she'd put her phone face down. The way she'd be texting someone and smile, then quickly put her phone away when I walked in. The way she'd suddenly be too tired when I tried to get close to her at night. Still, I told myself I was overthinking. I convinced myself I was being paranoid. Then came the awards banquet. Sarah's boss, William, was throwing a surprise event for her. Said she was an essential part of the team and deserved recognition. She was thrilled. Said it was a huge honor. She wanted me to be there, said it meant a lot to her. That night, I put on my best suit, kissed Angel goodnight, and told her mommy was getting an award. I was proud. But I had no idea that night would be the beginning of the end. And definitely no idea how deep her betrayal really ran. I should have seen it coming. Looking back, the signs were screaming at me, but I ignored them. Or maybe I just didn't want to believe that the woman I gave everything to could be capable of this. The night of the banquet, Sarah was glowing. Not for me, no, that wasn't the look she used to give me, but for them. For the people she worked with, for her boss, William. She wore a sleek red dress, something she hadn't worn in years, and when I told her she looked amazing, she barely acknowledged it. Just a quick, thanks babe, and then she went back to her phone. Texting. Smiling. We arrived at the banquet, and the moment we walked in, she transformed. Suddenly, she was this social butterfly, working the room like she owned it. She kept introducing me to people as her husband, but it felt off. Like I was a prop, something she had to acknowledge but didn't really care about. Then I met William. I don't know what I expected. Maybe some old dude with gray hair and a suit that didn't fit right. But this guy. He was sharp. Expensive suit, perfect smile, the kind of confidence that comes from knowing people admire you. And the way he looked at Sarah? It wasn't just admiration. It was possession. Ah, Jonathan. Sarah talks about you all the time, William said, shaking my hand. His grip was firm, almost challenging. She does? I asked, forcing a smile. All good things, of course, he chuckled, but there was something in his eyes. Something smug. Like he knew something I didn't. Sarah laughed, placing a hand on his arm as if to brush off whatever he was implying. William's been an amazing mentor. He's really helped me grow here. I nodded, but my gut twisted. Something wasn't right. As the night went on, I watched them. Not just William and Sarah, all of them. The way they interacted with her, the inside jokes I wasn't part of, the casual touches on her back or arm. She looked at them the way she used to look at me. The speech came next. William got up, microphone in hand, and started talking about Sarah. This woman, he said, smiling down at her, is the backbone of this office. She's dedicated, hard-working, and honestly, I don't know what we'd do without her. The crowd clapped. Sarah beamed. And on a personal note, William continued, Sarah has been more than just an assistant. She's been a friend, a confidant, and one of the most incredible women I've ever had the pleasure of working with. The way he said it, the way he looked at her, the way she blushed. I felt sick. Then, at the end of the night, she did something that sealed it. We were leaving, and Sarah was saying her goodbyes. William pulled her in for a hug. But it wasn't just a normal hug. It was long, intimate. His hand slid down just a little too far on her back. And Sarah? She let him. When we got in the car, I was quiet. What's wrong? She asked, looking at me. I gripped the steering wheel. That speech. The way he talked about you. The way he touched you. She sighed, rolling her eyes. Oh my God, Johnny, not this. He's just a friend. He respects me. Don't make this into something it's not. You really don't see how weird that was? I pressed. Jesus, you're overreacting, she snapped. This is why I don't tell you about work. You always get so jealous. 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 That's what she called it. I let it go that night. But something inside me shifted. A gut feeling I couldn't ignore anymore. Something was going on. And I was going to find out what. I never thought I'd be the type of guy to go through my wife's phone. But that night, as Sarah hummed in the shower, I sat on the edge of the bed, her phone in my hands, my heart pounding so hard I could barely breathe. The phone was locked. But I knew her passcode. She used Angel's birthday. Wrong passcode. My stomach dropped. She changed it. Sarah had never changed her passcode in all the years we'd been together. Not once. But now. After William called her his rock? After those pitying looks from her co-workers? Now she suddenly needed privacy? I put her phone back exactly where it was and sat there, staring at the wall. I could feel it. Something was off. But I had no proof. Just gut instinct. That night, I barely slept. Sarah, on the other hand, she passed out immediately, like she didn't have a care in the world. The next morning, I woke up early and went downstairs to make coffee. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at nothing, my mind racing. I needed to know. Then I had an idea. Sarah had an old iPad. She barely used it, but it was linked to her iCloud. If her messages were synced, I could see everything. I found it in a drawer, charged it up, and prayed she hadn't logged out. She hadn't. The messages loaded. And right there, at the top, was a name I never expected. William Aston. I clicked on it. And the moment I saw those texts, my whole world shattered. Sarah, last night was amazing. I can still taste you. You're incredible. I don't know how I got through the day without touching you. God, I wish I could have you right now. That dress last night, you have no idea what it did to me. My hands were shaking. My vision blurred. My wife, had been sleeping with her boss. But it didn't stop there. I scrolled up. The messages went back years. 3 years. Hundreds and hundreds of messages. Explicit. Romantic. Plans to meet up. arguments about their relationship, conversations about me, her telling him I was too boring, too predictable, too soft. I felt sick. But then I saw something even worse. William wasn't the only one. There were dozens of messages to other men. Some names I recognized. Some I didn't. Clients. Friends. Random men from the gym. My wife had been cheating on me for 3 years. And not just with one man. With hundreds. I don't even remember standing up. I don't remember walking up the stairs. But suddenly, I was in our bedroom, looking down at her as she slept peacefully, completely unaware that I had just uncovered her entire secret life. I could have woken her up right then. Screamed at her. Kicked her out. But I didn't. No. I had a better idea. I was going to make her paid. I stood there, looking at Sarah sleeping, and for the first time in my life, I felt absolutely nothing for her. No love. No anger. Just emptiness. 3 years. Hundreds of men. And she had been lying straight to my face every single day. I wanted to scream. To wake her up and shove the iPad in her face. To demand answers. But then I thought, why should I give her the satisfaction of seeing me break? No. She didn't deserve that. She deserved something worse. So I started planning. The first thing I did, I copied everything. Screenshots of every text, every picture she sent, every disgusting thing she wrote. I emailed them to myself, then backed them up on a flash drive. I wasn't just going to confront her. I was going to expose her. Then, I waited. For 2 weeks, I acted like nothing was wrong. I kissed her goodbye in the mornings. I asked about her day. I even kept up the act in the bedroom, though every time she touched me, I felt sick to my stomach. But I needed her to believe that I was clueless. That she still had me wrapped around her little finger. Meanwhile, I was getting everything in place. Step 1. Find a lawyer. Sarah had no idea, but I was already setting up my divorce case. I found the best attorney I could afford and showed him everything. He told me I had enough evidence to destroy her in court. Full custody of Angel? Mine. Our house? Mine. Step 2. Get the perfect moment to expose her. I didn't want to just tell her I knew. I wanted to humiliate her. To make her feel as small as she made me. And then, fate handed me the perfect opportunity. Sarah's birthday was coming up, and she wanted to have a huge party. Friends, family, even some of her co-workers, including William. Perfect. The night of Sarah's birthday, our house was packed. Friends, family, even some of her co-workers, including him. William. The man she had been sneaking around with for 3 years. Sarah was glowing. Smiling, laughing, playing the perfect wife, like she wasn't the biggest liar in the room. Every time I looked at her, I felt disgusted. But I kept smiling. Kept pretending. Because tonight was her night. Her last night as my wife. I waited until the party was in full swing. People were drinking, music was blasting, and Sarah was having the time of her life. Then, I tapped my glass and cleared my throat. Everyone, can I have your attention? The room went quiet. Sarah turned to me, her eyes bright, thinking I was about to give some heartfelt toast about my amazing wife. I smiled at her. Then I pulled out the flash drive. I have a little surprise for you, babe. I turned on the TV, plugged in the drive, and hit play. The first image? A screenshot of a text from William. Sarah, last night was amazing. I can still taste you. Gasps filled the room. Sarah went pale. Johnny, what is this? I ignored her and let the slideshow continue. More messages. More proof. Conversations with dozens of men. Her co-workers. Her gym trainer. Even a damn Uber driver. Then came the pictures. Her pictures. Half-naked selfies she had sent to other men. A few people turned away. Sarah's mother covered her mouth in shock. William. He just froze. And Sarah? She screamed. Turn it off. Turn it off now. She lunged for the remote, but I grabbed her wrist. Nah, babe, I said calmly. You deserve your moment in the spotlight. Then I turned to William. Hey, boss man. Did your wife get an invite tonight? Because she should probably see this too. Silence. Dead silence. Then, chaos. Sarah was crying, screaming that I was ruining her life. William was scrambling for the door. People were whispering, some outright laughing. Her dad looked like he was about to have a stroke. And me. I just stood there, watching it all unfold. Because this was only the beginning of her downfall. Sarah was hysterical. Full-on meltdown mode. She tried yanking the flash drive out of the TV, but my buddy Tom, who had been in on this plan, blocked her. Nah, Sarah. Let the people see what a loving wife you are, he said with a smirk. William was already halfway to the door, but I wasn't done with him yet. Leaving so soon, Will? I called out. Thought you and Sarah were so close? Why don't you stay and explain to everyone how you've been screwing another man's wife for 3 years? Everyone turned to him. His face was red, his hands clenched into fists. But he wasn't going to do anything. Not here. Not with this audience. Sarah ran after him. William, wait. Please. He turned to her, shaking his head. You are insane. And then he left. Just like that, her one true love was gone. I turned back to Sarah, who was still standing in the doorway, her makeup smeared, her chest rising and falling like she couldn't catch her breath. She looked around, realizing something. No one was on her side. Her parents. Horrified. Her mother was crying. Her father looked like he was about to explode. Her friends. Whispering amongst themselves, shaking their heads. And me. I just crossed my arms and watched as it all sank in. She was alone. She turned to me, her eyes wide with desperation. Johnny, please. I can explain. I laughed. Explain what, Sarah? That you're a liar? That you threw away our marriage for 3 years of sneaking around with random men? That you made a fool out of me? She was shaking now. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. You were always working, and I felt so alone, and— Oh, don't you dare! I cut her off. Don't you dare act like this is my fault. She tried to step closer, reaching for my arm. Please, Johnny. We can fix this. I'll do anything. I stepped back. Oh, I know you will. Because I wasn't done yet. I turned to everyone in the room. By the way, this isn't just some petty revenge stunt. I already filed for divorce. I pulled out an envelope and tossed it on the table. Sarah, you'll be hearing from my lawyer. You'll also be hearing from my real estate agent, because this house? It's mine. You have 1 week to pack your stuff and get out. More gasps. Sarah's jaw dropped. You can't do this. I smirked. I can. And I did. Then I delivered the final blow. Oh, and Angel? I turned to our daughter, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, watching everything. She's staying with me. Sarah collapsed. Right there, in front of everyone, she fell to her knees, sobbing so hard she couldn't even speak. And me. I just walked away. Because I was done. I left her there, crumpled on the floor, surrounded by people who now saw her for who she truly was. I didn't stay to hear the excuses, the fake apologies, the desperate cries for sympathy. I had done what I needed to do. Now, it was time to move on. I walked straight to Angel. She had been quiet the whole time, but she wasn't stupid. She had seen the messages on the TV. She had seen the way her mother broke down. She looked up at me, her face unreadable. You okay, sweetheart? I asked softly. She nodded slowly, then glanced at Sarah, who was still sobbing on the floor. So, Mom cheated on you. I hesitated. Yeah, kiddo. She did. Angel took a deep breath, like she was trying to process it all. Then she looked back at me. Can we go home now? Home. Not back inside. Not back to Sarah. Just home. I put my arm around her and nodded. Yeah, baby girl. Let's go home. I turned to Tom, who had been watching everything unfold with a look of pure satisfaction. Can you make sure Sarah doesn't try anything crazy after I leave? Tom grinned. Oh, don't worry. I'll make sure she doesn't pull some dramatic stunt. With that, Angel and I walked out of that house, leaving Sarah to deal with the wreckage of her own making. That night, I sat in my real home, our new apartment, with Angel curled up next to me on the couch. We watched one of her favorite movies, but I could tell she wasn't really paying attention. After a while, she looked up at me. What happens now? I sighed. Now, we move on. It's just you and me, kiddo. She thought about that for a second, then smiled. I'm okay with that. And just like that, I knew we were going to be fine. But Sarah's nightmare was just beginning. I thought Sarah would go quietly. I hoped she would. But, of course, she didn't. The morning after the party, I woke up to dozens of missed calls and texts from her. Johnny, please, let's talk. I messed up, I know, but we can fix this. I can't live without you and Angel. Please, don't do this to me. Just pick up the phone. Just once. Please. I blocked her. But she didn't stop. Next thing I knew, she was showing up everywhere. At my office. At Angel's school. Even outside my apartment. I'd come home from work, and she'd be sitting on the steps, eyes red from crying, looking like a ghost of herself. She wasn't the confident, flirtatious woman from before. She was a wreck. One night, I finally snapped. She was waiting outside again, shivering in the cold. As soon as she saw me, she jumped up. Johnny, please. Just 5 minutes. I clenched my jaw. Sarah, go home. I don't have a home, she choked out. You took everything from me. I laughed coldly. No, Sarah. You did this. You threw away our marriage. You betrayed your family. This is on you. She wiped her eyes. I don't even care about William. Or any of those guys. I just want you back. I want our family back. I shook my head. That's never happening. She broke. Right there, in front of me, she completely fell apart. She dropped to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. I'll do anything, Johnny. Anything. Just don't shut me out like this. For a split second, I felt bad. This was the mother of my child. The woman I once loved. But then I remembered what I had seen on that iPad. The texts. The pictures. The lies. I crouched down to her level and looked her dead in the eyes. You already lost me, Sarah. Now, you're losing yourself. Then I walked inside and left her there. And I didn't look back. For weeks, Sarah kept trying. She sent emails, letters, even tried using Angel to get to me, suddenly acting like the world's most devoted mother. But Angel saw through it. She's only nice when she wants something, my daughter muttered one day after another one of Sarah's forced, teary-eyed calls. I don't want to talk to her. That hurt to hear. Angel loved her mom. But even she couldn't forgive this. Then, Sarah's life really started falling apart. William. His wife found out everything. She divorced him, took half of his assets, and blasted him all over social media. Turns out, Sarah wasn't even his only side piece. He had others, some way younger. His reputation was in shambles. And Sarah? She lost her job. I don't know if William fired her or if she quit in shame, but she was unemployed. No husband. No home. No family. She went from being the woman who had everything to living in some tiny apartment, barely scraping by. And then, one day, she showed up again. This time, at Angel's soccer game. I was sitting on the bleachers when I saw her standing off to the side, her eyes locked on Angel. She looked rough, hair a mess, face hollow. When Angel spotted her, she hesitated, then turned back to the game. That was my cue. I walked over, keeping my voice calm. "What are you doing here, Sarah?" She didn't answer right away. Just kept watching Angel like she was afraid to blink. Then she looked at me, her eyes filled with pure desperation. "I miss my family," she whispered. I sighed. "Sarah, I know I messed up," she cut in, her voice shaking. "I ruined everything. But I don't know how to fix it. I don't even know who I am anymore." I felt nothing. No sympathy. No anger. Just emptiness. "You can't fix this," I told her. "You made your choices." Tears welled up in her eyes. I don't want to be alone." I stepped back. "You should have thought about that before you cheated on me 500 times. And with that, I walked away. She didn't chase me this time. She just stood there, watching, as I walked back to our daughter. The daughter she had lost. After the soccer game, I thought that was it. That Sarah finally understood there was no coming back. But she had one last move left. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name written in shaky handwriting. I opened it. It was from Sarah. "Johnny, I know you hate me. I know I deserve it. But I need you to understand. I never stopped loving you. I don't even know why I did what I did. Maybe I was selfish. Maybe I was just trying to fill some hole in me that nothing could fix. But I lost everything. And I deserve that. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. Tell Angel I love her. Even if she never speaks to me again, I'll always love her. Goodbye, Sarah." I stared at the letter for a long time. And then, I burned it. Not out of anger. Not out of hate. But because I was done. Really done. Sarah was my past. Angel was my future. And I wasn't going to waste another second on someone who threw away our family like it meant nothing. I blocked her number. Deleted her emails. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt free. The end.
Goodbye.